Welcome to Go For It podcast number 4, where we are focused on, number 4, we are focused on a lifestyle that pursues our dreams despite judgment, despite the fear of people's opinions. Essentially, we're focused on going after our goals. And today we're going to be talking about sales with Christian. But before we go there, let's, Mark, if you could introduce yourself briefly.
Hey guys, welcome back. Mark Lee, Loving Jules. You know the spiel, but yeah, it's not about me today. It's about Christian, but I'm glad to have you guys back.
All right. And I'm Joshua Plick. And Christian, if you could introduce yourself.
And I'm Christian. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be hanging out with you guys this evening. Pleasure meeting you, Mark Lee. Joshua I met the other day, so he has a head start on you, but I'm excited to be on your show and be number 4.
Yes.
All right. So a big problem that either business owners have or just people in general is the sales process, making sales. It's very intimidating to people. Like, why do you think that? So Christian is a sales consultant. He's essentially a sales coach. He's actually my sales coach officially also. So that's how I know Christian. And like, why do people go through that, Christian? Why are people intimidated by sales? And like, how can they get over that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think people are intimidated because they just their lack of knowledge. You know, their exposure to sales is what they have experienced or gotten ripped off somewhere, or what somebody's told them, but nobody has really taught them the proper way of selling and the fact that you do it naturally, regardless. You know, we sell to ourselves every single day. We are our best customers. So it's really a natural process. Nothing moves until a sale happens. But to me, sales is as simple as if there's a decision to be made, there's a sale to be made. So it's really that simple. But unfortunately, the world gives it a negative view and so forth. So, yeah.
Okay. Why don't you walk us through your career? Because you've had a career that has been in multiple different industries. You worked in car sales. You've worked in jewelry sales. You've also even worked with me in software sales. So can you just walk us through your career and like how you developed this expertise and like just walk us through your career a little bit.
Yeah. So you know, I've been working pretty much all my life. I negotiated my grades out of high school. So that was one of the sales sales awards that I hang up on my wall and brag about often. But I did car sales for a month. Got recruited to the jewelry industry, so I might know a thing or two, Mark Lee, on your industry.
Maybe you could help me.
maybe I might have a couple contacts here and there. And did very well, and then from there, 2014, I went on my own and started my company.
Well, so you're kind of like glazing over it. Like, what attracted you to a career in sales? Like, why did you think you'd be good for it? Like, tell us more about, people have this negative view of salesmanship. Why is it that you liked it and that you want to change that view of the sales profession?
Yes. So when it comes to sales, part of it is it goes back to the foundation, what I call foundation, and it has to do with just believing in yourself. We were all born to be confident. We were all born to rely on ourselves when we make decisions. And somewhere along the journey, we've been rewired to depend on a product, a person, or something for our growth. So really, my real passion behind sales and helping others is really helping them be more confident and get them back to where they were when they were born, but then also helping them that career, because you don't need permission to start a jewelry business like Mark Lee, and you don't need permission to from anybody to mark up that same bracelet for $500. Right. But something in you tells you that you need to be competitive, right? But there is no rules when it comes to making sales, but there is a level of confidence and understanding you got to have but part of it starts with you realigning yourself and the believing in yourself and being confident. So I'm really passionate in helping people get to that point where they were born with, and at some point in their life that was stripped away and was replaced by a lie that was told to them that they need a degree, they need something to be successful or happy, and all those are just lies. So my rush and my excitement, is getting somebody back to that baby state of confidence, right? Where you can have puke on your chest and still smile, and then making a career out of it. That's
Right.
what gets me super excited. The selling a product is just fun. I mean, like that's just that's a high you can't buy, whether it's a bottle of water or a piece of jewelry or software, whatever that is. It's all about just feeling finding that gap that somebody has a need or wants to change, and just being part of that journey in somebody's decision making. That's just fun. That's the easy part. So that's why for me, I can sell any product because the product's really irrelevant to me, and I see it as fun, but I really just make it a point to constantly rely on just being in the people business, being comfortable, being personable, learning. Within 5 minutes, I can tell you all about Mark Lee and his journey, where he's from, what he does, what he eats, doesn't eat, things like that. And that's exciting. How do you not get excited about learning about people and enjoying conversation?
So you're touching on an important part of the process, which is the relationship building.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't realize sales is mainly, from what I take from it, building a relationship, getting to know the person. What would you say, or how do you handle rejection, or how do you handle people's requests for how to deal with rejection? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, will shy away from sales, or still to this day, I'm much better now, but I used to struggle with rejection in regards to your product. Maybe it's something you're really passionate about, and somebody has, shut it down. So what would you say to bounce back from that?
Yeah. So, rejection, if you're not getting rejected on a daily basis, you're not selling enough,
Right.
and you're going to stay pretty stagnant. But at the end of the day, rejection is only gets hard when you put too much thought on what people think about you or whatnot. So again, it goes back to just being confident enough to say, I really don't care your opinion on it, and not taking it personal. But there is a thing about being rejected and not making a sale due to the fact that you didn't follow the process. You didn't invest in the relationship building. If you get rejected, but you decided to go straight into product and ignore that we're in the people business, well, that's on you. That's exactly what you should expect to get, is rejected, because you spent no time developing a relationship and building value, and the only thing that's unique about your business which is you. At the end of the day, you're selling bracelets. Like that's that is not an exciting thing as far as how many bracelets exist in the world and how long they've been around. But what gets me excited is when I look at your style, your look, your jokes, your journey, and now we're building that relationship. Now that bracelet looks a lot different. So, a lot of times when people get rejected, they're also lazy in a sense that they don't invest enough time understanding the sales process, and they don't invest time in building a relationship or listening to their customers, but yet they want to get offended when they get told no. That's on them. But rejection, it sucks no matter what. But what gets me excited about getting rejected is that the more I get rejected, that means the more opportunities I'm going after. And every time I get rejected, I get better because I'll figure another angle to close the sale with that. The situation will always repeat itself. It's just going to be a different person, right? So you learn you learn from it, and then you make it a point to close that next deal, and that's the high you can't buy, right? So you have to look forward to being rejected because you typically won't get rejected twice for the same thing, right? You get rejected the first time, you overcome that objection, you make that sale, Now you're selling the same bracelet for $500. You get rejected. Then now you're selling it for $1,000. And one day you look back and you go, I'm selling beads for $5,000. How did that happen? Well, because you chose to get rejected a lot, and you earned the right now to be at a certain level that you figured out the formula, and people love you for it, right? So yeah, rejection is a great thing. You know, it scares me when somebody tells me I don't get rejected, or somebody brags on having a high closing ratio. I'm going, well, that you're probably selling to your mom once a year, and that's I don't consider that a very hard sale.
That's a really interesting perspective coming from a sales coach. What I'd love to hear from you, Christian, you touched on it, and something that was surprising to me working with you as my sales coach was the fact that there is actually a sales process. Can you tell us about the sales process? Like, because something you've told me is that you should analyze every sale according to the sales process. Walk us through that process.
So if you're gonna make sales your profession, or even let's say you don't want to make it your profession, but you want to get a promotion in the business you're currently working in, it will be a good investment to understand the sales process. So just like any other profession, whether it's sports, whether it's cooking, there's a system and steps there for a reason, right? And when you skip these steps or don't follow them, things aren't going to work out. If you're trying to bake a cake and you forget certain ingredients, that cake's not going to come out like it's supposed to. You know, in sales, it's very similar. So there's a system you should follow, so that way you know where you're at the sale at all times, and it allows you to also speed up, slow down the process, because you're dealing with people, right? So a lot of times people don't understand that it is a profession, and there is a process to follow if you want to do it successfully. I meet a lot of people that love to freestyle. I don't follow steps because I do my thing. I'm like, okay, you hate to be held accountable. That's what I'm hearing, right? Because when you do your thing, it's never your fault either. But when you learn a system and a process, you understand where you messed up. You understand that you didn't establish or spend enough time building a relationship. You understand you didn't do a good job selling benefits about your product. There's always a reason that you can go back to when you have a system to follow. So that's why I'm a big believer in having some kind of structure, because I want to be able to always go back and identify where I went wrong or where things went really good, so I can do it again the next time. So it's no different. I said in sports, if you golf, there's certain ways you hold a club and certain ways you swing. If you play basketball, there's certain way that you shoot the ball, right? So you got to have structure, and you got to have a system to go back to get better.
Got you. So say you've spoken from sales from the perspective of being a sales professional, which is great. But I would like to also hear your perspective on sales, because you deal with a lot of business owners. Say you're talking to a Markley or a Josh like myself, someone who has a skill, has a talent, and they want to go into business. But a lot of people I've met, they're intimidated by the fact that, oh man, I have this skill, but I just, I don't want to sell a product. Like I'm nervous about that, or that's not one of my skills. Like I'm not good at that. What would you have to say to encourage that person?
Man, right here. Yeah, sometimes you gotta be Michael Scott. You know what I mean?
So for our listeners, he's holding up a cup that says "World's Best Boss."
Come on, from The Office. Shout out to my brother Richard Abrahamson. Got me this mug. If you don't know The Office, you watch it. You'll learn a lot of tricks from Michael Scott. But again, people have such a bad taste when it comes to sales that they avoid it at all costs. And typically I will tell a Markley and you the same thing. Just invest in learning the process, because when you learn it, it's actually enjoyable. Like you literally look forward to a sales presentation. But when you keep it as this unknown, and you don't know how it works, you dread it. Like you You don't want to do it. In your mind, it's a lot harder than what it really is. I'm not saying it's easy either, but it's enjoyable. I think for me, I get excited when I go to give a sales presentation, and it's enjoyable. And then my clients, it's enjoyable to them also. So I don't create an awkward situation where my clients leave or the customers that I'm pitching, they go, that was uncomfortable. Like it doesn't happen. I'm in the people business. So, when I meet with people that are struggling with sales, I always go back to, how much are you investing in the training? How much are you investing in yourself? I look at the leaderships, the leadership division. So if you look at leaders, what are leaders? Leaders are people that can sell a vision to a team, right? So that way they can earn the support, and then they have to produce, for them, right? So every great leader has to make a sale, right? If you want to be president of the United States, besides money, you better be a great salesperson. You don't have to be the smartest guy. You got to be a great salesperson, right? So it's one of those things where just invest in learning the basic of sales first and get to the point where it's enjoyable. And once you reach that level, it's exciting. Like it's that rush that you feel. It's kind of Markley, I'm sure, when he landed that account for the first time in Orlando, that must have been like, it felt great, didn't it? Seeing your product out and, like that feeling never gets old. If I sell this Sharpie to somebody who's looking for a Sharpie, I still get excited over it. If I sell a high ticket item, I get excited. It doesn't matter, but it's because I enjoy the process. I enjoy all of it, but the lack of people investing in themselves and understanding sales, that's typically like, it's not rocket science, guys. Like it's the one thing that nobody tells you to invest in when you're in school. It's the one thing that nobody really touches base on. If you go to college, they might do 2 weeks in college of sales training, and that's it. But it's, if you think back, how much sales talk did you learn in school?
Very little in school. Yeah.
We learn math, we learn science, history, everything's important, but nobody taught us how to get a job. Nobody taught us how to sell ourselves. They taught us how to write a resume, maybe, right? But nobody taught us how to sell, right? So it's just that lack of knowledge, man. It's what it boils down to.
Give us something to chew on, Christian, because you're saying that, you're telling the world that they have a problem. You're saying, hey, you guys don't know how to sell, but you've coached people across multiple industries. Give us a top 3, because you should, at this point, you should have either a top 3 or top 5 issues that you run into. Give us a rundown of actionable tips that our audience can take to improve the sales process or to get over their fear of conducting sales.
So the first tip I'll tell you is stop spending money on product marketing or anything else, and spend money in sales training. So Markley, if you haven't bought a sales book yet or audiobook or whatever, go invest in it, right? If you haven't invested in some kind of sales program, invest in what's going to make you money and make a career. So we invest all this money on inventory and marketing, but when you ask yourself, and I ask this question all the time to all these to different industries, now how much money are we spending in educating the team or the leaders in sales? And the answers that I always get are, oh, well, we don't have the budget for that. What do you mean you don't have the budget for the thing that's going to make you successful? You have a product or you have a service to move. It's not going to just sell itself, right? That's to me, it's just crazy. So the first tip I'll tell you is, stop spending money on all the other things that you think is going to make the sale for you, and invest in yourself first. Right. You're the only thing unique about your business. What are you worth, right? If you're not worth $500 or $1,000 to get better at what's going to make your career, that's on you, right? I, till this day, my last sales training that I attended on my own, I signed up for a alarm sales training class in Orlando. The only people that were there were people who sold alarms. It was $500. I was the only person who didn't sell alarms. And I went there with no intent but just to learn. Because if I can get one nugget out of that $500, you know, that could be the difference between closing that big next sale or not, right? But I literally, you know, I spent money on the travel, on the hotel. I had to pay this company. I had to be super uncomfortable because when you introduce yourself in this room of 30 alarm business owners / salespeople, and they ask you what industry you're in, you're going, I'm just here to learn. They kind of look at you like weird, like. But to me, like the product is irrelevant, right? I'm there to learn some sales tactics. You know, like, you know, I have to continue to invest in myself. So, you know, eat the meat, chew out the bones. You know, you don't have to believe in all of it. But my pastor always told me that, you know, chew the meat, spit out the bones. In other words, like, you're going to hear some cheesy selling tricks, right? You're going to hear some of these ridiculous tactics. But within those trainings, you're going to get one or two nuggets that are super good. And that's your next account that you that you'll close using that one little tactic that you learn. So the first thing I'll tell you is invest in yourself. The second thing I would say is practice. Like, you have to practice and role play. Again, there's no professional athlete out there or professional that doesn't practice their trade. It's like Mark Lee not making a bracelet ever and then starting a business, making bracelets and expecting to, like, his first bracelet to be totally amazing.
Right.
It could have been, but I'm pretty sure his first bracelet, like, wasn't, we're going to call it very artistic. It might have fell apart. It might have, like, the knots.
The first few bracelets popped. I didn't know there's different sizing with the string, all types of things. So I had people wearing them. They liked them, but a couple of days later they will pop off, and I was super embarrassed. But it takes time. You have to build yourself up and learn.
Right. Yeah. So sales is no different. So the second thing is just practice. Till this day, I role play. You know, if I have an important meeting, you know, I'll even ask my wife. So, hey, you're business owner X. I need you to sit on a chair like this and you stare at me and not say a word. And she loves it because she gets to, like, act out this person, right? But I want to make sure she creates the most uncomfortable environment for me to try to break down those walls, right? And I practice and I practice. So if you're not practicing, again, to expect for you to hit a home run when you do get that one lead or that one potential customer, it's not going to happen. But if you practice, I guarantee you'll be the most prepared sales professional that walks into that meeting if they're shopping 3 different vendors, and you will get that account, right? And the third thing is you have to believe in yourself. You have to block out the noise. You have to get rid of all the friends who are not encouraging you. If you don't have friends like me, Mark Lee, saying you're selling your bracelet for too cheap, you got the wrong friends, right? Like, you have to get rid of people who can't dream and support big visions, right? You want people that are surrounding you, that are pushing you, and when you say something ridiculous, they look at you and go, "That's not ridiculous. Let's go," right? And in your mind, you're like, "What do you mean we're going to open up an account next to David Yurman? Like, we're not going to open next to David Yurman. We're going to compete with David Yurman." Like, you want that friend in your corner. You don't want the person that overanalyzes every little thing. Well, before we do that, let's think about it. You know, like, they've been around for 28 years and you only been around for 3 years. And like, get rid of all those people. Get rid of the noise and just focus on your trade and just go for it, right? And the more you go for it, the higher the closing ratio, the more fun you'll have, right? You might even start a podcast named that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ashley, by the way. You know Ashley Markley?
Which Ashley?
That's our friend. That's our lawyer friend.
Oh, yeah, of course. I love Ashley. Yeah.
Met her the other night. I had to give her a shout out.
Yeah, shout out. She's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, so that would be my third. It's you have to then just believe in yourself and cut out the noise. Stay off social media. Stay off all the fake memes and the millionaire memes, because I can tell you this, when entrepreneurship is not for everybody, right? If you think entrepreneurship is going to be like Instagram shows it, it's not going to be it. There's going to be a lot of nights going to be. I remember I went from being pretty successful to negative $20 in my bank account, crying like a baby with a newborn in the house. But we were going somewhere, right? We were surrounded by the right people. My wife's amazing. We celebrated 16 years this year, and every year gets even better. We're strong. Our relationship with God is amazing. So I can always go to my Heavenly Father and be like, we got to do something. Like this ain't working. And He always comes through every single time. But it's not easy, So, and I find a lot of entrepreneurs, they're just quitters, like they just quit. They get squeezed just a little bit, they quit, right? And then it's okay to fail. But what I get mad at is when people quit and they didn't even try. And what I mean by trying is they didn't invest in themselves. They didn't learn sales, right? They didn't even go try to get rejected, but they just quit. I'm going, you didn't even try. So you don't even qualify to quit. You never even started, which is it's amazing. But I hope that 1, 2, 3 is a good start for you.
No, that was good. Here's what I want to ask you about, because you mentioned about being an entrepreneur as a family man. So a lot of people would look at me or at Markley, because we're both single, and they'd be like, oh yeah, you could be an entrepreneur because you don't have to take care of somebody. But you literally mentioned a newborn baby. How does someone who's listening to this, thinking about making the jump into entrepreneurship, talk about, you mentioned having negative $20 in your bank account. So if you also go back to our podcast number 1, you will hear about my struggles as an entrepreneur too. I had negative $377, my personal account,
nice.
$1.77 in my, it was either $1.77 or $1.13 in my business bank account. It was desperate, like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So Christian, you've been there with a lot more at stake. How do you rationalize that? Why did you jump into being a sales consultant? And how did you rationalize that being a family man and needing to provide?
Yeah, so I'll answer both questions because I don't believe, I volunteer at high schools and things like that. I believe in investing in our future. And one of the things that I cannot stand is when these kids are being told, wait till you get to the real world. I'm like, you are in the real world. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're breathing, you're a human being. Like, this is it. You know what I mean? And I'm the guy in there telling them, like, go get it. And it's going to be hard regardless. So I don't believe there's a good or bad time. You know what I mean? If you're always waiting for that perfect time, you're just never going to go. So for me, if you're single, it's still hard and you're still going to go through the suck. If you're married and with children, it's going to be hard. You're still going to go through the suck. The suck is real. The suck's always waiting for you. But that's where you learn all the biggest lessons. And that's what you sit back and take pride on when you kind of get out of that suck, because you knew what it took. And nobody else will ever understand what it took to get past it or that journey. But that's that picture you look at the wall and go, Markley, I expect Markley to be hanging up in a shadow box, his first bracelet all falling apart, because that represents his journey, right? That's just incredible to me. So it's never necessarily a perfect time. For me, I always wanted to go on my own, and I didn't know when. And then 2014, I was in the jewelry business, and God placed it in my heart. It's time to go. And I argued for about a week, because I was like, right now, I got a baby at home. My wife's not working. We're about to go through to the holiday season, which is where you make 30% of your income in that industry, right?
Wow.
And so I'm arguing with God, going back and forth. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. So I go home. I told Carrie, my wife, and I'm like, hey, God put it in my heart to go. We prayed together. She got confirmation, and that, I converted my I had like a detached garage with a slab in my backyard, and I converted it into an office, AC, windows, and my first day at work, was a Rubbermaid table with a computer. You just figuring it out. I didn't have this master plan. So my journey, was I believe the season that I'm on and what we're working towards is something greater, and I'm loving the journey. It's still difficult at times because I keep going to that next level and that next level. So it's exciting for me. But yeah, I went from having money in the savings and no debt to negative $20 in my bank account with a new baby still crying. Like those babies are still going to need to eat and diapers.
Right.
It was a wild ride. But again, that's what we look back to going, yeah, and look where we're at now. I'm hanging out with a podcast, making up some stories for you guys and loving life. But that's that was my leaving the safety net, so to speak. Because when you work for somebody, you're not taking the risk. You take it to that next level really when you go on your own, and you're relying strictly on yourself. And I chose to be a consultant, where a lot of my clients, I thought I was going to lend. Some of my first clients were going to be the ones that I have a relationship with from the jewelry business, but they were looking at me going, my jeweler now wants to tell me how to run my business. Like, I didn't land any account. And then on top of that, I couldn't even make a sale to anybody. I remember pitching a mattress store, walking into a mattress store, and I walked in there. I was down to like $300 for, like 4 visits a month. And I was ready to make any sale, and I couldn't close it. I'm like, what am I doing? And those days were rough. I remember driving around in my car going, what business am I going to go crash and try to get that account? But the key is I didn't give up. And a lot of people question, a lot of people, I'm sure were talking behind my back, and but that doesn't bother me. To me, I really don't care what people have to say. And then we started landing accounts, and then we started having fun, and then I did very well. Then I messed up again because I thought I knew what I was doing, and I took another dip, and I learned from those mistakes, and then I went back up. But every time you go up, you go to that next level. And it's just been, I've been enjoying the journey. Since then, I have another little one. I have a 6 and a 3-year-old now. And it's just incredible. Like we're just enjoying it,
That's beautiful. And I love that you're a family guy. That's amazing. I have a question. I want to ask you, so we're in very difficult times for some, interesting times. It's very, very different. Something that, most of us have never seen before or, experienced. So how has this altered your business, changed your business, or the clients that you deal with? Because everything is completely different. So what have you noticed? Any tips or tricks or any feedback with that?
Yeah.
Because this is it's very challenging. COVID, it's election year, it's a lot of things going on. So what can you speak on about that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I actually had somebody ask me that the other day at lunch. What's interesting is it's been a wild year for sure for everybody. Right. I'm probably gonna end up having the best year in my career on my own this year.
Awesome. So, congratulations.
So 2020, come on, like it's awesome. I've had my own ups and downs. I've had, my mom passed unexpectedly, throughout everything and all that. But at the end of the day, you just got to keep on keeping on. And so it's all about choices. But what's interesting about these times is this: like nothing's changed. Like sales is still the same. I haven't changed tactics. I haven't rewrote the loss of sales. I haven't changed the fact that you have to believe in yourself if you expect to sell a service or a product. Like nothing has changed as far as the formula. What has changed, though, however, is forced people and businesses to pay attention, right? And they lost that luxury of being able to just let it ride and rely on false confidence within themselves. And it's caused them to now ask these questions and pay attention and kind of go, well, maybe I should learn how to sell. Maybe I should invest in myself. Maybe I should have a bigger why, because I think COVID and these times have kind of brought out what's important in people's lives, which for me that has never changed. My priorities have always been solid, and that's God, my wife, my kids, then my blood family, right? Like, but to a lot of people that hasn't been the priority. The priority has been, work, money, cars, house, then family, right? And even though they might say differently, but the reality, the fruits are different. But it's forced them now to take a look back, or it has forced them to hang out with a family. But my advice is still the same: invest in yourself, right? And practice. Like just give it a shot, because people are still going to buy. People are still going to make a decision, right? It's who they're going to buy from. Has the platforms changed? Of course, the internet has changed everybody's game, right? But the same tactics that you would do in person, you would try to kind of do on your website or online, right? There's certain things that you can do with websites, and I told Joshua this. It's about building something with intent, right? A lot of people build stuff to look pretty, but when you learn the laws of sales, you view things differently. You view your website going, why is that bandana on my website? I don't even sell bandanas, right? That's not triggering any emotions. But so things start happening when you invest in yourself and learning the sales process, that you start viewing the different platforms different. But the laws of sales will never change, right? It's like the law of gravity. That will never change, no matter if there's a presidential election going on, if there's COVID 2028 or something crazy. Like the laws will never change. What will change is the people who are going to invest in themselves and adapt. But if you're not taking advantage of this time right now, where competition is sleeping, competition is waiting, competition is holding back. If you're in the jewelry business, big companies are closing up. So now's a great time to get in the door, because the big guys are liquidating and they have so much debt. They have to go bankrupt. Like, 2020 is a great year for opportunity. If you're not taking advantage of 2020, like, man, I'm gonna look back at 2021 going like, I don't know what you did, but
It's a soundbite.
I showed up every day and got excited and adapted and had an opportunity to tell no to clients that I didn't want to work with. And to me, that's a huge win to finally be at the level where you can tell no to clients. Like, no, that's just fantastic, and learning different areas, because it's an opportunity. I learned a little bit about software. I learned a little bit about websites. Why? Because nobody was doing a great job with it. Like, I don't like computers. I don't like coding. I don't like software. I don't like I'm a people guy, right? But when I see an opportunity where it's a need and that need fixes it's a solution to a problem, like, I'm all in. I'm also a smart business guy. And when you see the world transitioning to a certain area, we got it. What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work. Okay. Then we do exactly what everybody else is doing, and it's blaming the world. But until that day comes, man, we're gonna keep moving forward. So we got 3 months left in the year. So what I tell you is, crank it up, baby. Now is not the time to hold back. Now it's the time to take over the world.
Right, that's true. This is quarter 4. This is the most profitable time for most businesses. So it's really time to step it up.
Yeah, and go for it. Just go. I said, you can always go backwards. You know what I mean? Like, so start high and work your way backwards.
All right, Christian, we know that you offer sales consulting services. You've mentioned this multiple times. You've made references to the laws of sales. What are the laws of sales? Like, come on, give us at least a little bit of some game.
Give you, that there's just so much, but the most basic law that I teach and show people is as simple as when the value exceeds the price, people buy. Okay. So when the value exceeds the price, people buy. That's as simple as it gets. If you haven't built enough value in your service and your product, the law states that people aren't going to give you money. It's literally that simple. Now, how you build value and how you go about it, then that just requires some work and practice. But the only thing unique about your business is you, right? So the only place to build the most value is going to be in you first, right? And your product second. And when you get really good at building value within you, and that's what you mentioned, Markley, building a relationship, being personable, being a great listener, and finding that need or want, right? When you build that value, you only have a little bit of selling of your product or service left before the loss of sales kicks in, which means somebody's gonna give you money, right? So if there's one law I want everybody can just use and run with is when the value exceeds the price, people buy. If you're not making the sale, it's as simple as you didn't build enough value, right? That's it. If you didn't build enough value, that could be multiple things. It could be that you sold it wrong. It could be that you didn't identify the gap, the reason they're needing that product or why they were needing it, right? So there's things that go in that, but at the very base of it is if the sale did not happen, you didn't build enough value. That's it.
Right. So
how's that one?
In regards to just learning about sales, like you mentioned investing and learning about sales, what resources would you recommend for people to just get started? Like if I don't know anything about sales, I'm listening to this podcast, holy crap, there's a law of sales, there's a process. There's this guy, this Christian who does sales consulting. How do I get started with learning how to sell?
You just get a book. Get any book. There's so many. You got from Zig Ziglar's, to you go to LinkedIn. You got Keenan. He teaches gap selling. There's just there are so many out there, and for the most part, they're all kind of teaching the same things, just in different views. But just start somewhere. Like it doesn't matter which one, but just start. Just like literally start. like go Google, however, read the bios, and whichever sales personality fits you the best, buy that one. Because for me, when I do my sales training, I have my own style. I have my own way that I teach it, even though I'm teaching the similar steps and laws, but I have my own style. There's some other people that are more, they show up with a binder. They're very monotone, they're quiet, and they go through this process, so there's no right or wrong necessarily, but there's definitely different styles. So, match a style that you enjoy, that you can connect with, that you can understand, so that way you can keep it fun, and then just start applying it. And then I think the more you start applying it and the more fun you start having with it, or more questions you have, then the more the easier will be to look up the areas you need to improve on, right? But at the beginning, just learn the basic, and that's any book's going to teach you that. Stay away from any tricks. Stay away from any books or spit out the bones, right? If somebody teaches you like a tricky closing tactic, like that's not what you're learning right now. At the beginning stages, just learn the basis of sales, the foundational things. Once you get past that, and now Markley is closing a $2 million deal with Nordstrom, then you better learn some bigger tactics. You know what I mean? Like now you better learn that next level, because you need to learn how to speak a different language.
Right.
But at the very beginning, if you're talking about the masses, the 80% of the world who currently has a zero structure,
right?
Just Google a book that sounds good to you and read it or listen to it.
Awesome.
Or if you're ever in Jacksonville, or put a group together in Houston and fly me out, we'll make that happen too.
Trying to get fluid out.
Just get me out there.
Yeah.
Well, so you mentioned the ups and downs in your business, Christian. I want to come back to that because we mentioned probably a little bit too much about the doldrums of business, but our last podcast, we had Erica on there. She said she's going through the best month in her business ever. You mentioned that 2020 has been the best year for you. I think, Markley, this has been the best year for your business also, right?
It has. It really has.
Exactly. So a lot of people are experiencing success in 2020. Can you tell us about that transition from the lows up into the success? Like, just walk us through what that was like just either, I don't know, even tactics or strategies that you had, or how you hung through. Like, tell us about the transition from the bad side to the good side.
Enjoy. Yeah. One of the things that is very important is that you have personal goals set. So if you remember, when I do my teaching, I always start with personal goals, and you got to have personal goals so that way you know where you're going, your destination. You can celebrate when you hit it, and things like that. So I think if you have personal goals, it'll help you get through the process easier, because when you're in the down, you're still up because you're headed the right direction. But then when you hit that goal, it's just amazing too. Another thing that's very important, because you will get in a funk at some point, is personal goals help your juices and your dreamer get going, right? So it's very easy to get on a funk and then not be able to have that vision anymore, and that vision dies. Or when you first started, you vision yourself being here, but then after 3 years of getting your butt kicked, it kind of dies. But when you have those personal goals, so you can take that glimpse at and go, no, I'm still heading that way. This is just part of the journey. Then it kind of picks you back up, and also make sure that your dreamer never shuts off. Because the moment your dreamer shuts off, you're in trouble. Like your dreamer is not controlled by your bank account, right? So your dreamer controls your bank account. So does that make sense? So a lot of times people, their level of excitement or their power to be able to dream big relies on how well they're doing financially. and that's not where you want to be. You want to be in a place where your dreamer's always big, your dreamer's always running. Even if I move back in with my parents, right, in my 40s, I'm still dreaming big, right? Yeah. Even if doesn't matter what it is, you're still dreaming, and that'll help you get there quicker, and it'll help you just celebrate, going, that's awesome. Like, we made a goal, we went at it, the good, the bad, and now we hit it, and now you're looking back going, this is just awesome, right? And it doesn't matter what the year is, if it's 2020 and we're going through this, or 2021 or 2019, as long as you have your goals in sight, and your goals are your personal goals, not your business. Because remember, when you have your personal goals set, then it's easy to set business goals to align with it, right? One of the lessons that I learned being in the jewelry business, and I think it's part of my calling, is, I sat down with multimillionaires all day long that were sad. And I also sat down with multimillionaires that the following week actually committed suicide because they were so empty all the time, right? And I'm going like, how does that happen? Well, I believe they never had personal goals, right? Nope. They didn't have that person going like, look, like money comes and goes, but you got to keep that going, right? So when you have those personal goals and then you're hitting them, right? And you have a team around you encouraging you, like, oh, we're almost there. You know what I mean? Whatever that, if it's getting yourself a Rolex, and it's a lot of money to somebody's eye, but you've always wanted it, man, that's awesome. I want to celebrate with you when you get it, right? And you enjoy it because you work hard for it, right? So celebrating your wins, it's a big deal. But you can you can miss that opportunity if you get set in a funk and you don't realize you actually hit a certain goal, but you let your dreamer die. You let yourself get in this funk, and now all of a sudden you actually are hitting goals and you're not even celebrating them. And now you're in this wheel. And I think that's what happens with a lot of these multimillionaires that become a prisoner of their own success. You know, they built this big company, but at some point that dreamer and the whys got shut off, and now they're just working, and they're just working, and you know, they have a heart attack at 48, and that was it. And you're going like, oh, that wasn't what it was all about. You know what I mean? Where I find that there's people out there that have that balance because they never shut, and they'll smile. They'll go bankrupt and they're still smiling because that dreamer is still going. You know, like, man, I'm filing bankruptcy tomorrow with my company. I totally failed, but man, I'm one step closer to that $1 billion. To most people, they don't even understand that concept. They'll look at Elon Musk like, what are you talking about? Like, you just lost all your money and you're talking about going out of space? But like someone like Elon Musk was like, yeah, like at his worst time, he was still going, yeah, I'm going out of space. Of course I am. His dreamer never shut off. But now he's celebrating, right? Now he gets to kick back and look, we just launched the Falcon 9 something today, was it?
Oh, I'm not sure what the launch was today.
Another one, this dude's kicking back, just laughing, and he's laughing the same way that he was laughing when he was broke, So you can tell he has goals set, and he's constantly going after them, and he's constantly celebrating them. You know what I mean? And that's just awesome. So that's I didn't hear the other podcast with a young lady, but congratulations to her having an amazing year and keep it going. And then it's exciting to replace your goals because you hit one. Right. You're like, well, crap. I had 3, I hit 1, I got to replace it with something. What does that look like? And I'm sure you're going to set it to that next level. And right. That's just an exciting moment.
I've mentioned Mark Cuban's how to win at the sport of business before in an earlier podcast, but I'm going to mention it again. So this is a billionaire we're talking about, and he says in that book, it's like I mentioned before, it's like $3 or $4. It's a quick read. It's like less than 100 pages. But in that book, he mentions that you need to be aware that the journey is all you have. Like the destination, like that's not what makes it fun. Like what was fun was me building my businesses. Like you really need to, and like they say, quote unquote, enjoy the process. Like enjoy the journey. Like the journey that's what it's all about. Like, because when you achieve the goals, then you might find yourself at a point where, wait, I don't have any more goals. You might find yourself a millionaire or a billionaire who's very depressed at that point. It's like, okay, I've achieved everything.
Yeah.
What now?
Absolutely. And that's a great way to look at learning how to sell. It's
really? Wait, what's the transition to
enjoy the rejections. Don't view it in a negative light. Just enjoy it. Laugh at it. Somebody tells you no 5 times because you asked for the sale 5 times. Like, laugh at it when you go home. Like, that is crazy. I can't tell you how many times I've been rejected, or I call it kicked off stage, or how I put myself out there constantly. And those are the stories that are funny now, and then I don't write them down, but they just come out when I do certain trainings or whatnot. And I listen to myself with those stories, and I just start laughing at myself. I'm like, what were you thinking? Or that was crazy that you tried it,
Right.
But I enjoyed it, I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? I'm gonna get kicked out of this fancy club, like,
yeah.
But the best that could happen, I'm gonna have a great time, and I have a lot of those stories where, a few years ago when I did that fundraiser, that First Coast Dancing with the Stars, where I'm like, man, this is going to be awkward. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm Puerto Rican, but I really don't know how to dance. That's embarrassing in itself. Like, it's like, but I'm going like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy the journey. I got out there, and now I look back and go, that was super awesome. And I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the day off, but I even enjoy the stories now. Even when I went to one of my clients 2 weeks ago, they were putting the videos back up because they're trying to fundraise, and this year they're not having the event, so they're doing like throwbacks, right? And one of my clients actually saw the video, and I walk into his office, and he's like dancing, just making fun of me. And I thought it was the most amazing, the funniest thing. He's like, I didn't know you were a ballroom dancer. I'm like, of course I am. I'm Puerto Rican. I switched it up. But yeah, like, enjoying that journey in sales, man, the stories that come out of it, but then the wins that also come out of it. It's just awesome. Like, I just encourage people to just view it in a different light and go for it.
Right. Go for it. You've been using the go for it mantra. I love it.
TM.
Well, I want to mention a rejection story I have, two of them actually, just real quick. When I was in college, I focused on dating women and trying to learn how to talk to women very, very heavily. Not heavily, but like it was something that became a focus in my life. So one weekend I was down in Gainesville, Florida. I was going to school at the University of Florida. And one weekend I was out at some nightclub. This is probably a defunct nightclub now, but it was called The Vault. And I saw this young lady that looked very attractive, and she was dressed nice, figure was nice, and I wanted to say hello and meet her because I was practicing, I was practicing learning how to talk to women. So I went up to her, I said hello, and she literally she was right in front of me. She was probably a good, Mark Lee's, I thought you were dying laughing. Okay. She was a good 3 feet away from me, but she actually, anybody who's listening to this, I'm holding up my fingers. She looked right through me. Her rejection was so complete that I could tell that she was looking past me, but through my head. She just completely did not acknowledge that I existed. And that experience that was almost 10 years ago now. And that experience was so jarring to me at the time. That rejection was so complete that I went home.
Jack Daniels.
Well, no, I didn't drink Jack Daniels that night, but I went home and I cried myself to sleep, actually, to be honest with you. That was the ultimate form of rejection. And that was such a forming experience. And I never forgot that. But fast forward 7 or 8 years later, I was in Jacksonville going out to a nightclub, place called Mark's in downtown Jacksonville. The same exact experience happened where I saw this young lady. She looked nice. I went over to her. And of course, I'm much more confident now as an older 27, 28-year-old. And I said, hello. I said something very basic. But to both women, I said something completely non-rejectable. It was like, hello, or how's your night going? Or something very basic. And this woman, yet again, looked right through me. And it hurt. It hurt again, even at 27, 28. But it wasn't because I had experienced it before at 20 years old, and I went home and cried myself to sleep, that 27 to 28-year-old Joshua Plick was able to contextualize that moment. And 27 to 28-year-old Joshua Plick was able to see that experience that moment and say, she's missing out. Something about me is unattractive to her, but I truly believe that it is her loss. She's not even willing to say a word to me. She's willing to look right through me, to be so disrespectful. So I guess having those two experiences, the exact same experience across 6 or 7 years, I was able to see my growth. And that experience, those experiences are priceless to me because I was able to emotionally see my growth as somebody that broke me at 20 years old. And at 27 to 28, it still hurt. But right. I was able to contextualize it saying that, I've proven to myself and to the world that I'm worth knowing. I'm worth at least saying hello to. And that's the difference. Having goals and being able to look back, stopping and smelling the roses is important because while that could have broken me at 27 and 28 again, I was able to think about my progress as a human being.
Yeah, and it happens. And it also happens in business. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me where, when I used to go to networking events, because that's what you're told, hey, go to networking events. Now I go to networking events with intent. I have a whole system. I don't waste time. But I remember I would barge into groups, and try to introduce myself. Yeah. And like you're saying, people would look past me and I'm like, this is awkward. and I'll go to the next group and like, but you know, it gets easier and it gets funner, but then you also get bolder. Like, and I think there's a thing that, you know, the more you do it, your walk is a little bit different, right? Your confidence is a little bit different. So I believe the third time that you go approach a girl to reject you, she might not reject you, not because, you know, the situation changed, but she won't reject you because your confidence got up to another level where you had a little bit of swag walking up to her. You know, you were a little bit more calm. You weren't as tense, right?
Right.
You weren't like nervous with a crackly voice, you know, because you've been there, done that, you know, and now you're like, what's the worst that could happen, right? And 9 times out of 10, she'll actually talk to you, you know, because if I was to rewind and be a fly in the wall, the second go around, there's a good chance that your nerves are going crazy, you know. And while in your mind you sounded like Denzel Washington approaching her, you were more like Menzel, you know, and
Mouse Denzel.
Menzel, little wash. And but the more that you do it, the more comfortable you get, the more confident you get, and that's when the results start changing. All of a sudden, you become like more attractive. People stop rejecting you as much, right? But it took getting past those rejections, right? But the faster you get them out of the way, the better it is. You know, like instead of waiting 7 years to get rejected again, like get rejected the following day. You know what I mean? Like kind of just get back up and go, I'm just gonna go get rejected just to kind of get that out of the way. And it's very, very similar in sales. You know, in sales you get really hurt and you cry yourself to sleep because somebody called your bracelet ugly and overpriced and who do you think you are? And then you sit for months and months and months until you build your courage back up, where the best practice is just go get rejected against a random stranger. Like go to somebody at Starbucks and go, hey, I want to sell you this bracelet for $300, you know, and just get it out of the way. So that way you're not caught up in this funk of the what if it happens again, or what if I have to cry myself to sleep again, like I did the first time. I love it, you know. And you've asked some more girls in the recent days, right?
Yes, I have a cool story, like a much cooler story, but we may get to that. But I want to ask Markley about your experience with the pop-up shop. So you've been doing the pop-up shop recently every weekend with your business. I've been personally trying to convince you to be the face of your business, like sort of like my coaching that I've got from Christian. The most unique thing about your business is you. And I think Markley, I think you just have a personality that people just are attracted to. And the fact that you don't put your face on your Instagram, it's like, it just drives me wild. But I guess what I'm getting at is now that you're out more in the open, actually conducting sales in person as opposed to online, like how's that transition been? I'm sure you've run into rejection. Like how are you dealing with that transition to a more public version of Loving Jewels?
I think for the most part, at least where I'm at, my community is really, really supportive. So I've been experiencing overall very, very a lot of love. But if somebody doesn't want something or if they don't want to buy it, I wish them well. I wish them well. I try to figure out why, what it is. Is it financial? Is it the style, the fit, X, Y, and Z? So that way I can maybe better tailor my products to a certain audience. But for the most part, I don't even think twice about it. If you don't want it, and if it is a financial situation, maybe I will try to work something out with you. If that's not it, then you're just not meant to purchase that product at that time. So I try to get to the reasoning behind why you don't like it or you may not want it. But I don't care at this point. I'm at the point where I don't care. Whether you buy from me or not, I am still going to do my thing. I'm still going to believe in myself. I'm still going to do it. So I would like everyone to be a customer, but that's not the reality. And some people may not buy from you just because they may not like you as a person. They may love the item, but they may not vibe with you. So I don't really think too much about it. If it's something with the product, I try to figure out what it is with the product. Is it a personal thing? But you're not going to appeal to everyone. So I just kind of chalk it up and just say, okay, on to the next. But for the most part, I've been getting more support than anything. So I just try to focus on that. And when you focus on the positivity and the constructive criticism and the feedback, I think you can then tailor your business. So I try to sell or not figure out what it is that the people are saying and then try to learn from that to better myself. But whether they buy or not, there's a lot of people who like my stuff and don't buy. It's okay. I try to still figure out what is it? Is it the price? Is it this? Maybe they just don't want to buy a necklace at that point.
Right.
But I still try to have them offer me some feedback, and that's all you can really do. But I don't take it to heart. I'm at the point in my life where you can't take things too personal. You have to still move forward, and as long as you believe in yourself and you move and operate in a positive light, you'll always be blessed. So.
Let me ask you. So let me ask you something, and may I coach you a little?
Yeah. But
Awesome. So what you're describing, and one of the things that you're currently doing, is you're identifying objections. So you're literally going through some of the selling step, like the process, and you're trying to identify the real objections. How are you asking the customers when you're trying to figure out why they're not buying?
So I try to read them out. Like it depends on the person. Some people are kind of shy approaching the table. Other times they may approach, but they may not say too much. So I'm not overbearing. As when people come, I see other vendors. They're very like, oh, you want this, you want that. I let people shop because I know how I like to shop. So I let people shop. I say, if you have any questions, let me know. Now, if I notice that they're walking away or something, and I will try to pay attention to what they were looking at. So I'll say, oh, you like that Nefertiti necklace? Oh, I have different sizes. So maybe it was a sizing thing. Or, oh, I have it in silver as well as gold. And, maybe they'll come back. And then at that point, I try to open up some conversation and see what it may be. Maybe it was the pricing, or maybe it was the sizing, or maybe they had a question about it, but they felt like they were a little bit too shy to ask. So I try to make sure that they're comfortable, but I try to pay attention to their, I guess, shopping pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I've had people wanting to buy multiple items, but maybe it was a little bit out of their budget if they bought 3 pairs of earrings. So I tell them, okay, if it's over by $10, we'll work something out. If you're buying 3 pairs, no problem. And that closes the deal. But I think it's about the communication and reading the person. But I'm really not overbearing at all. I like people to shop, and I want them to be comfortable.
Yeah. So there's a difference. I want to help you out because I run into this a lot, and I'm just hearing a lot of things, and I'm like, So when you're describing overbearing, it's what you describe. People all over, right? How about this? How about this? How about this? Right? And that's what people imagine a salesperson looks like, right? And that is not a salesperson. To me, that's an annoying person, right? Just annoying, that doesn't respect people and so forth. What you're currently doing is also not okay because you're just clerking, right? So you cannot be a clerk when you're selling your own brand, right? It's your own brand. You should be like people should be falling in love with you, right? So that style I don't enjoy either because we're missing a lot of opportunities of people becoming a fan of your brand because they never got to meet the brand. They saw the jewelry, which is no different than the jewelry next to the booth next to you, but they never met the brand, right? So I would encourage when you're at these pop-up shops, or if you're just another vendor, because I've worked booths with clients where I sold female portrait photography, the woman's show. I've sold handbags with clients. So this is coming from somebody that actually has sold in many industries, and it just works. But just start conversation, right? Don't talk about the product. Don't talk about the jewelry. None of that. Just literally pretend that the jewelry doesn't exist, and you just met them at a restaurant, or you're at Starbucks waiting on your caramel macchiato, whatever you drank, and you just start a conversation. Pretend that's the scenario, and you start conversation. Because the good news is, if you have an annoying person across from you, and you have somebody clerking next to you, and you're literally the only person who's personable building a brand, dude, you're gonna make a sale. But you have to just focus on that one person only, right? So whoever's in front of you, that's your person, right? And it never fails. The moment you engage somebody, 3 people randomly gonna look at your booth. It never fails. Don't worry about the 3 other people, right? Or bring some help or whatever. But just literally focus on one client at a time. Focus on selling the brand, which the brand is you, and what you're selling is your personality, right? I currently like Markley, not because you show me that bracelet. It's just I like your personality, your question, your laugh, those things. And within 2 minutes, you can have somebody already sold on the brand. And then once they're sold on the brand, the product is easy. Because one thing about jewelry, I did it for 15 years. It's fun. Like, you throw things on a guy's bracelet, you throw a necklace on a lady's neck. Oh my gosh, take a look at this. This complements your eye. Jewelry is really a very fun sale. So I really enjoy being in the jewelry industry. I still get calls, people wanting to buy pieces from me. So if there's one thing you get to do, what Joshua does, and Joshua, his sales are very technical. I call it talking Chinese. They tend to be boring at times. I have to kind of bring him back at times, going look, talk normal. He'll start talking some crazy stuff, and I get lost, and the clients get lost. I'm like, you need to come back to earth. Jewelry, man, once you sell yourself and you start throwing pieces on people's wrists and the matching earrings and the necklace, it's so much fun compared to other industries. But you have to sell that brand. And when somebody doesn't buy, be bold enough to say, you love the piece. What's keeping you from getting it? You want clarity why they didn't buy. You never want to try to figure it out or read their body language and none of that. You want to know for sure it's way too expensive, it's but ugly, right? Or I don't have the money. You want to know, is it product related? Is it they can't afford it and you want to work with them? Maybe you bless somebody who absolutely loves you, but she might spread the word and go, I'll make you a deal. I'm going to invest this necklace on you, but you have to now do this on Instagram for me. That's a great investment, right? If you get the right person. Or they just don't see the value. And what that means is the law didn't take place. The value didn't exceed the price. You didn't do a good enough job selling yourself as a brand or the product, and therefore they're not buying. But be bold enough to ask, girlfriend, this looks amazing on you. I can't figure out why you're not buying it right now. And then just shut up. It's gonna be nerve-wracking at first, because you're gonna go, if I was a customer, that will make me feel uncomfortable. Well, thankfully you're not the customer, right? you're the brand, and your job's to build the brand. Because they ain't no Nordstrom's as long as we're selling pop-up shops. You know what I mean? So we need to be able to get past that phase and get clarity on the true whys. And I want to know for sure if the color blue on that last batch of citrines that you bought, it's really ugly. And that's because now you know for sure 5 people said that color's ugly. Now we know for sure that Joshua can create a software that'll figure out ugly colors for us, and we don't even have to think about it because he's coming out with a solution. And now we know now we have facts. Or somebody says it's just way too expensive. And if you keep hearing that over and over and over, we need to get better at selling ourselves or the brand. But that's how we're going to grow to that next level. But I will encourage you not to be a clerk, because you're not a clerk, you're a brand. A clerk will be somebody that you hire to bag your jewelry. That's a clerk. So David Yurman, all these top designers, I hung out with Marco Biccigo, Roberto Coin, David Yurman, You know, like I've had my share. I used to go to Switzerland once a year for the Basel Fair, you know, and all those guys are selling themselves. And then when you don't buy, they're confused. They're like, what do you mean you're not buying my stuff? You know, like they believe in themselves so much that they sell a piece of sterling, like David Yurman, he sells a sterling bracelet for $1,000. That's powerful. That's a brand. You're not buying sterling for $1,000. It's probably the cost of that sterling is what, $30, right? But you're buying that brand, you're buying the designer, but their attitude behind it, their confidence behind it, it's just that next level. But you can do that now. You know, like you don't have to wait 10 years. Joshua, he didn't have to wait 10 years to start selling software. You know, he just had to believe in himself and make that sale and just go for it and keep growing. And so, like, dude, like, it's one of those things where you need to, you know, like, next pop-up shop, you give me a call and let me know how it worked out. And if it sucked, I'll send you a check for all the missed sales that you that I cost you, and I'll sell it over here, make my money back. But I promise you that you'll for sure build a new fan base and make a couple extra dollars that night versus the other nights.
I'm excited to try that. I have 2 coming up on Saturday. So
Come on.
So yeah,
I can't wait to hear the results.
Definitely.
All right. Yeah, I think I probably should end there. I think that was great. I think that's podcast number 4.
Oh, but
Sure.
before we leave, Christian, you want to let everyone know where they can find you, reach out to you, websites, any social media, LinkedIn. I'll let the people know.
Let the people know you can reach out to me. Exigosales.com is my website that you can go to. And I did not build. Someone like Joshua or somebody way smarter. Actually, Alex built it for me. But reach out. Let's set up a phone call. You know, again, I love sales. I love empowering people to go to that next level. And if anything, just get better at selling, whether it's with me or somebody else. Just invest in yourself, believe in yourself, and you know, make it happen. But I'm always around. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. If you guys are ever in town, any of the listeners, you know, give us a ring. Maybe we'll grab lunch. But I'm open to you know, emails or a phone call.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I had a good time.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for dropping those gems. I'm gonna definitely do that because I never looked at it as a clerk perspective, but I'm super excited. So I'm gonna test that out this weekend ×2 at both events. So
All right.
thank you.
Love it. I love it. Awesome. You guys have a great night.
All right.
Thank you, Christian. You too.
Go. Thank you.